What's up, everybody? Derek Anderson, the DA, and came across this little article on comicbook.com talking about George R.R. Martin, saying he doesn't understand why fandoms have turned on their favorite franchises. It's a very interesting question, I actually have to admit. Why are fans against their quote-unquote favorite franchises? I think this is worth digging into a little bit deeper, but I'm going to go ahead and touch on this article. George, he has some understanding issues, and I think we can kind of help him out with that. So let me go ahead and get into this. By the way, if you haven't done so, go ahead, give me a like, give me a subscribe. It really helps me out, helps this video out, helps the channel make its way around YouTube and get into the homes of many others. All right, let's go ahead and jump to it. George R.R. Martin doesn't understand why fandoms have turned on their favorite franchises. So it says here he's baffled at the negativity by many pop culture fans seem to direct at the object of their supposed adoration, pointing out that Amazon's forthcoming TV series based on Lord of the Rings has already gotten plenty of fans angry about its mere existence. Martin told The Independent he doesn't understand the appeal of being part of a fandom that seems to hate the thing right there, the thing its members are fans of. Stop. They don't hate it, okay? They don't hate the franchises that they are fans of. Quite the opposite, George. They actually love the franchise, love it deeply, love it sincerely, and they're disappointed to an extraordinarily high degree that it comes off as hate because they're venting how frustrated they are. That's what it is. I wouldn't necessarily call it hate. I would call it disappointment, a high level of frustration. That's what I would call it. That's how I look at it. Now, maybe some of y'all that actually do see it, you say you hate it. Okay. I just think hate is a strong word. I think it's more like dislike, disapproval, dissatisfaction, and, frustration at the direction that these folks are taking it in. Because guess what? If they didn't love the franchise, they probably wouldn't care. Like, I'll be honest, it goes on to mention here, right? He's talking about two stalwart controversial sci-fi fandoms, Star Trek and Star Wars. I mean, I like Star Trek, but I'm not going to be a fan. I'm not going to sit up here, I'm a fan of Star Trek, and I'm really pissed off at how they're doing Star Trek. I don't care. Hey, it didn't work, this, whatever, and then I just stop watching and go on to something else. I go back to my franchises that I love. Star Wars, obviously, you guys know that, got the, crate on my plate shirt right here that I got at Celebration. And then Marvel and DC and a few others, the Potters and all that kind of Potterhead as a Harry Potter fan, all of that. So I'm a fan of all of those franchises. And, when those franchises are messed up, I feel it more. So, and that's because I love the franchise. So you say they seem to hate the thing. No, they don't hate it, George. They love it, but they're upset. Okay, so it goes on to say he's famously a fan of comic books, especially Marvel, but he didn't wade into the controversy over the DC Films universe or the recent conservative revolt. I like that little word, conservative revolt, against a more diverse Marvel Cinematic Universe on social media. But those and properties like Ghostbusters could fight. I don't know who wrote this. Russ, yeah, what's going on with that? So let's talk about this little line right here. I don't think it's about a conservative revolt against diversity in the MCU. Okay, they call it the MCU, that's, and that's legitimately a thing because it's what it is. It's a unorganic push. Okay, like stuff should flow organically and should feel natural, and this doesn't feel natural. This feels steeped and soaked in agenda, and that in and of itself is kind of a turnoff. I love seeing a wide variety of different types of characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But I think the way that they've just brought them in, it just unfortunately feels forced. And that's the absolute opposite of what you want it to be. You don't want to force diversity into something, okay? It's like having a diversity quota in a job. Like, the only reason you got this job is because you fit the this and, you're this and whatever. It's like, no, you fit the position because you are the right person. That's what people are looking for. And these stories should flow naturally. You want to do something that's going to be She-Hulk, or you want to do a Black Widow, or you want to do, Miss Marvel, etc., Captain Marvel, fine. Make it flow naturally through. And if you can't do it, then, there's something wrong with your writing. You got to make that more organic. to the overall story that you're telling. Okay, when it feels forced, there's going to be kind of a pushback, because I don't really care either way. I'm going to go watch the stuff anyway, but it just feels fake and phony. It doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel natural. And that's the problem that the MCU is having right now. They're having just kind of this, hey, like the first original MCU, it just felt organic. Okay, this feels natural and everything. But then you got to a point where all of a sudden we just got a tidal wave of, female characters. And then you got gender swaps and race swaps. And it's kind of like my same issue with Black Superman. Like, why not just go ahead and take an original character that was created that is Black and just promote that character instead of, doing, Black Superman, give us Icon. Again, that's what I've been and I'm going to keep beating that drum. Give us Icon. If you want to do a Black superhero that has Superman-like powers, do a original character like Icon. There you go. All right. And it's the same thing with, gender swaps, female Thor, which has never been a good idea. It's never been a good storyline. They're just doing it. Like, yeah, whatever. We did it in the comics. We'll do it here. And it's like, nobody liked that story, so why are you doing that? All right. I don't get it. Or just, swapping out any types of race or gender swaps. Hey, look, there are plenty of Black characters, female characters, where you don't have to flip-flop and swap races and swap genders in order to bring a character to life. You don't have to do it. Just go and give us originality. I think that helps storytelling, because the whole time I'm watching Thor Love and Thunder and I'm watching Jane Foster playing Thor, all I'm going to be thinking is, that ain't Thor. That's Jane Foster Thor, or something like that. Instead of just giving her own character, make her completely a brand new character, give her superpowers, give her all kinds of stuff, and then tell that story. I would be fine with that, And I think most comic book fans and fans in general will be fine with whatever you give them, as long as it's original. When it's phony and fake and forced, nobody likes that. And that's just the bottom line. But let's get back to the article. All right, so it says here, Lord of Rings, Rings of Power isn't even on yet. But if you follow what's going on online, the controversy about it is like World War II. They're dropping atomic bombs on each other, Martin told The Independent. It used to be if you were a fan of Star Trek, you liked Star Trek. Now it seems like half the people who call themselves Star Trek fans hate Star Trek, and the Star Wars fans hate Star Wars, and the Tolkien fans hate Rings of Power. What the hell? Yeah. And I mean, there's some truth to that. And I feel like there's a lot of fans that are absolutely doing this. I'm no longer a fan of what they've done before. I know guys that are saying, hey, you know what? Star Wars, I'm an original trilogy fan, apparently. That's what they'll tell me. I'm an original trilogy fan, and if they don't want to do the original trilogy, or if they don't want to stick to kind of the same tones and the same types of stories, then, hey, that's Star Wars for other people. I'm just going to stay in the original trilogy. I'm not going to pay attention to the other stuff that they're doing. I don't care about the sequels. I don't care about the prequels. I don't care about The Mandalorian. I don't care about any of that stuff. And that's their right to feel. They're still Star Wars fans. Don't get it twisted. They're still Star Wars fans, but they don't like the new stuff. And you're starting to see this divide where people are like, I'm over here on this camp, I'm a Star Wars fan, but I'm an old trilogy fan or an original trilogy fan. And then you have these guys over here, I'm a sequel trilogy fan, etc., etc. And that's the problem that you're having. Now, in my opinion, here's what I think. What Lucasfilm is struggling with is how to bring on new people, right? Bring in new fans, because, it's a possibility that fan bases can die, Star Trek, for instance. The fan base is just getting older and older and older and older. Every year, more Star Trek fans are dying off because they're old, right? Back from the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s, but then you're not bringing in new fans, right? So then you're starting to, well, what do these new fans like? What do they want to see? Well, they want to see more of this or more of that. So then they try to force feed that into the franchise, and it doesn't work, right? I think what they're running into, especially with Star Wars, is they're trying to, appeal to young kids, at the same time appeal to the older adults who actually were the ones that kept the franchises along for the ride as long as they did. So you're having this kind of mix right there of what do we do? How do we do it? And, for Star Wars, I think that they've done an okay job, in as far as they've given us, a couple of decent movies, in my opinion. And they've given us a couple of decent TV shows. But I think they're still trending on the downward end of it, because with every new TV show or every new movie that they're coming out, those things are being scrutinized heavily. And unfortunately, if it's not picture perfect, perfect, they're going to get some, feedback about that. And let me show you kind of what I mean by, you can do some good and some bad, but, it just has to be balanced. All right, so I put together this little pie chart that you're looking at, and I think this is like the balance that franchises need to have. Now, we have to be honest. Every franchise you do isn't going to be 100% perfect. It's just not, okay? There's going to be some good and bad, but I think the fandoms grow when it's usually more good than bad, right? And I think this is the mix that you're trying to hit. You're trying to get kind of a 70-30 mix, okay? 70% of the franchise you like, it's good, it's solid, it brings you joy. And then 30% you're like, oh man, what were they thinking on that episode? Or what were they thinking on that movie or whatever? But if we could get to like a 70-30% balance, I think most of us will probably be, hey, you know what? I like most of it. There's some stuff that I don't like, and that's okay. All right. But I think what you're seeing right now with a lot of these, unfortunately, with a lot of these studios, it kind of looks like this. It's kind of like this ever moving, like it's not consistent. It's just kind of shifting around. It's like sometimes we got way more good than way bad. And sometimes we're kind of in the middle. And then we got these gray areas. We really don't know. Is it good? Is it bad? I'm not quite sure. We don't have any consistency where we can just say, yes, this is a good franchise. This stuff is good. This, and this worked. This didn't work. Okay, perfect. That's what you need. So I think the Disneys and the Marvels and, the Amazons and all the other franchise makers out there, I think they need to get off of this thing and go back to something like this where you got more good than bad and it's solid and it's consistent. It's not ever flowing, right? Like if you make a couple of good steps forward, you can maybe afford one step back, but you can't afford 3 steps back, okay? You got to keep kind of moving it in that positive direction. All right, so let's get back to the article. And it mentions here, of course, that Martin says pointedly didn't mention Games of Thrones in that comment, which allows him to sidestep the issues of quality or potential criticism that his commentary is more sour grapes. Yeah, because if he says something like, yeah, man, I don't like the fact that they said something bad about House of Dragon. Yeah, then you're talking about, yeah, your stuff. Now you just sound like you a little mad at fans in general. And he probably is. Let's just be honest. He just didn't want to comment on it. But he probably is upset that House of Dragon is already getting criticism before it even comes out and all of that. And he mentions this here that, he's happy to see that both the Rings of Power and House of Dragon are going head to head on major streaming services, pointing out that both of them succeeding would be good for the genre as a whole. And I think that this is true too. I think that you need that strong competition between these various franchises. I think that's an excellent point that he makes. He says, I know a lot of articles, the minute the dates were announced, it's, the Battle Fantasy Supremacy. It's Rings of Power versus House of Dragon. Who will win? I'm actually going to throw Willow into that, in a minute. I think Willow is actually, at least from this standpoint, Willow is new. Willow, you only got one movie, so Willow is somewhat new. So I think Lucasfilm doing Willow, it may actually be better than Rings of Power and House of Dragon. I'm interested to see how Ron Howard put this thing together because, I think that Willow could have been a better franchise that they started working on that. So maybe now's the opportunity for Willow to throw its hat in the ring and say, no, we're the fantasy supreme, in this whole thing, but yeah, it's not going to be more like the Ring of Power and House of Dragon. It's going to be for younger children. Nevertheless, I think it could still do some work. It says here, I don't know why they always have to do that. Martin told The Independent, I hope both shows succeed. I'm competitive enough. I hope we succeed more as they win 6 Emmys, and I hope they do. I hope we win 7, but nonetheless, it's good for fantasy. I love fantasy. I love science fiction. I want more shows on television. And I want to end it with this. And I also agree with George there. I want more of this stuff on television. I want more of these shows. Okay. And my fear is, has always been, that if you don't support these shows when you have them, you will lose them. Okay. You will lose these types of shows if you don't support them. Now, I'm not saying to throw out your blind support. If you really don't like something, okay, don't like it, don't support it. That's absolutely something that you should do. I don't support things I don't like. But at the same time, we have to start to say, if we don't support this stuff, we're going to lose it, because they're going to be like, well, shoot, nobody's watching Rings of Power. Why are we even trying to do more Lord of the Rings? We're done here, and there's going to be some Lord of the Ring fans that are probably going to be like, oh man, I really enjoyed the show. Or, oh man, I was hoping maybe they would just improve it and go in a different direction. I'm not sure what the real answer is, but there is a possibility of losing all of this stuff. And they're just going to say, hey, reality TV for everybody. We're done doing this stuff because it doesn't work. And we're tired of the negativity and the controversy and blah, 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 blah. So there's always a possibility that they'll go and do that and try to dive into other genres that you're not a fan of. So, it's kind of a be careful what you wish for. But at the same time, I do understand, because I don't want to support things that I don't like. I'm still okay with Star Wars. So that's why I'm still going to Star Wars. But it could get to the point where I'm like, I'm not feeling it no more. I hope not. And I don't think it'll get there, because I really love the franchise that much. But you never know. But in any case, folks, that'll do it. That was just a quick look at that George R.R. Martin article. What do you think about it? Do you think that George R.R. Martin is right? Is he wrong? Go ahead, drop down, give me your comments and your opinions and your thoughts. All right, folks, that'll do it. I want to thank you for watching. See you next time.